Well, welcome to Faith Nation, the first of the new year, 2018.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Hey, confetti.
Hey, where's the confetti?
Can we have some ordered?
Yeah, we'll get on that right away. Well, as we head into the new year, today we are looking back at 2017 and some of the biggest wins for Christians across the country. Pastor Paula White will join us for that.
That's right. Looking forward to becoming a regular, obviously. We're also going to look ahead to what's coming up in Washington this year. Reverend Samuel Rodriguez joins us to talk about immigration reform. Great show. Make sure you share the show. Very important. Share it with your friends on Facebook. There's a share button somewhere. I don't know where it is.
Just start clicking around.
Just click somewhere and share the show, please.
Yeah. But first, a look back at last year. If you watch the news, you know it was a busy year here in Washington.
For sure, and there was a lot that happened for people of faith, giving reason for many Christians really to celebrate.
Today we are breaking down some of those reasons. Jennifer Wishon has the first 5.
Number 1, Neil Gorsuch. President Donald Trump promised to pick a conservative, pro-life justice to serve on the Supreme Court.
I've always heard that the most important thing that a president of the United States does is appoint people, hopefully great people like this appointment, to the United States Supreme Court.
Number 2, remember this picture? Spontaneous prayer for the president in the Oval Office after a day-long meeting between evangelical leaders and White House officials. Number 3, keeping a key campaign promise despite threats and criticism from around the world, President Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital and began the process of moving the U.S. Embassy there.
We cannot solve our problems by making the same failed assumptions and repeating the same failed strategies of the past.
It's seen as the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Number 4, a museum dedicated to the Bible opens on the National Mall.
We believe that the Bible speaks for itself, and you cannot read the Bible or come here to this place without understanding that Jesus is the Word of God.
Number 5, Vice President Mike Pence, a pro-life evangelical Christian, occupies the second highest office in the land.
The sweetest words the President and I ever hear, and we hear them a lot, are when people grab us by the hand and say, "We're praying for you."
Mike Pence right there. And by the way, speaking of Mike Pence, I recently sat down for an interview with the Vice President, and here's what he had to say about prayer and faith. Have a look.
I have to tell you, the sweetest words the President and I ever hear, and we hear them a lot, are when people grab us by the hand and say, "We're praying for you." I've been with this President in the Oval Office with religious leaders when people have asked to pause for a moment of prayer, and the President readily embraces that. I think he's always very humbled and grateful by the support of believers. But let me be clear, President Trump is a believer, and so am I. And we understand the role of faith in the life of this nation. And the American people, I think, can be encouraged to know that in President Donald Trump, they have a leader who embraces and respects and appreciates the role of faith and the importance of religion in the lives of our families and our communities and our nation, and he always will.
Mike Pence, boy, I tell you what, that was a fun interview with him. He, you know, he gave us some information, some good news nuggets in that. So
He did. He made some news in that interview.
He did. And we like when that happens.
We like when we make the headlines, yeah. All right, well, joining us now, Amber Strong in the social seat.
Yeah.
Amber, a lot of people weighing in, I know.
Yes, a lot of people weighing in. Just reflecting on 2017 and what a year it was. I like this one right here. This is from Tahira, who says, 2017 was a really hard year for our family here in New Zealand, but we persevered. Praise Jesus. That was one of my favorite ones. And then this one who said, "We're covering you in prayer." So at the end of the day, people are still praying and still believing. We look back on so many stories here at CBN News over the last couple of weeks. If you've been following our page in general, not just Faith Nation, we've looked back and we saw the array of the really good news and then just the tough times that the nation went through. But through it all, we saw positivity coming through all of it. And so, and I think that's what's reflected here in many of these comments is the good and the bad, Jesus through it all.
And prayer through it all, for sure.
Yeah, prayer through it all.
Yeah.
Yep. So we got to look at the top 5 reasons that Christians celebrated in 2017. But we got a lot more coming in the show, so make sure that you are sharing with your friends and weighing in on those top moments for you in 2017.
Yeah, and we now have 5 more reasons Christians celebrated.
So once again, here we go. Jennifer with Sean.
Number 6, a weekly Bible study attended by members of President Trump's cabinet. Some of the world's most influential people going through the Bible together, verse by verse. Ralph Drollinger, founder of Capital Ministries, leads the weekly gathering and says nothing like this has happened in at least 100 years.
Best Bible study I've ever taught in my life. They are so teachable, they're so noble, they're so learned.
Number 7, the Little Sisters of the Poor score a win for religious liberty at the Supreme Court. The Order of Catholic Nuns no longer has to provide insurance coverage for birth control and abortion-causing drugs or face a fine, which was required under Obamacare. Number 8, President Trump reinstates the Mexico City policy, withholding U.S. tax dollars from 4 non-governmental organizations that either perform abortions or provide abortion referrals. Number 9, continuing his pro-life bona fides, the president signed legislation overturning an Obama-era requirement that states spend some of their federal funding on Planned Parenthood. Vice President Mike Pence cast the tie-breaking Senate vote to send it to the president's desk. Number 10.
3, 2, 1.
Not only is he bringing Merry Christmas back, President Trump points to Jesus as the reason for the season.
For Christians, this is a holy season, the celebration of the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Well, President Trump has surrounded himself with evangelicals, but perhaps none more influential than Pastor Paula White, who joins us now from Florida. Paula, thank you so much for being with us.
It's my honor. Hello and Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year to you, Paula. Hey, speaking about the new year, first let's look back at 2017. I'm curious what you were most encouraged with in this past year as it relates to President Trump and faith. There's been so much.
Boy, I would say we would need at least the entire hour show. But we look at everything from the naming of Jerusalem and the recognizing of Jerusalem to the Capitol, to the National Day of Prayer, to having over 1,000 faith leaders come through the White House, to the Supreme Court, Justice of Neil Gorsuch, to all the appointees, the most lower court appointees and nominations ever. I mean, there's just so much. We could look at the tax repeal. We could look at so many things that he's done. As I sit there and look at 55 executive orders, David, I mean, what he's accomplished in a year, and without you guys and so many others that so seldom get reported, it's absolutely astounding.
Paula, what did you make of the president's speech when he went out and called Jesus our Lord and Savior?
I absolutely loved it. I thought it was phenomenal. It's not surprising to me. I think so many people, always have had that question mark, and I've said so for so many years. I've known him going on 17 years now, and faith is such an integral part and such an important part of his life. And I loved how he invoked prayer, and he's always said it. He says it almost every single time, that we worship God, not government. And he is a man of prayer. He loves to have people around him that pray. He loves to be prayed for. He loves when people pray. So prayer is such an important part because he recognizes that we cannot rely on our own strength alone, but it takes the strength and guidance of God.
Paula, let's move ahead to 2018. Can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek as to what's on the agenda for this Faith Advisory Council coming up this year? Are there certain issues that are important that are going to be tackled or touched upon by this council? You are obviously very instrumental in all of that, bringing all of that together.
But David, the faith initiative of the White House is really exciting. There should be some things rolling out early part of the year that will have about 6 initiatives and exciting things that if we thought we did some things last year, boy, wait until this year. I mean, we'll be touching on everything from humanitarian, working, of course, with criminal justice reform, religious liberties, so many different aspects, mental health care, substance abuse. There are many things that are planned through the White House and the president to see these initiatives not just launched, but successfully working with churches, organizations, synagogues, all people of faith. So I'm excited to be a part of it and kind of to be at the helm working with some of the principals in the White House.
Paula, yesterday CNN questioned the fitness of the president after he tweeted about North Korea and the mainstream media. What do you make of his Twitter temperament?
You know, I'm not surprised about CNN always creating a story or saying something. I can tell you that our president is doing absolutely phenomenal, that he is in great health every way. And so what people make of each Twitter is up to themselves. I mean, that's between the administration and what they put out. And we've seen all kinds of Twitters, but even more crazy, we've seen, I wouldn't even say more crazy, what we've seen crazy is some of the stories that come out, like from CNN that you referenced about his mental health. He's great mentally.
Paula White, always a pleasure. Wanted you to weigh in on that for sure, but thank you so much. You're it's such a blessing for you to always be with us. You're becoming like a regular here, which we love. So thank you.
Well, I love being with you guys. Thank you, and hope it's not too cold up where you are.
Thanks, Paula. Happy New Year.
You too, guys. Be blessed.
Always great to have Paula on our show. She is becoming a regular here.
She is, and we guess she's going to do some skiing, I heard, in your neck of the woods.
Out in Colorado, out in my neck of the woods.
That's very nice. You never know where Paula's going to show up. I mean, she was in Orlando, but boy, she is in D.C. quite a bit.
She's here every month.
Yeah, every month, and as a matter of fact, sometimes quite a few times per month, depending on when the situation arises, especially with the hurricanes and some of the other things that where the president needs some that Faith Advisory Council to come through.
I don't think it could be understated the influence that she does have on this president, more so than arguably anybody else, any faith leader there is.
There's not even a question. I mean, there's no question. There's Paula White and everybody else in his orbit, at least the way he sees it, and that's because he's all about relationships. He's known her 17 years. He trusts her, and with the president, with Donald Trump, trust is crucial. Yeah. So,
all right, well, we want to bring in Amber again. I know, Amber, we are getting a lot of comments. A lot of people weighing in from all over the world. I saw one from Belgium, I think.
Yep, Belgium. One from Belgium, one from Pakistan. So a lot of people just with great comments. This one right here, I ask you guys to talk about what you're celebrating this year. So please tell me what you're celebrating, the good things that happened in 2017. This one came from Sylvia. We just love Sylvia. Sylvia said, our second grandson was born.
Oh,
that's an all moment, right?
Nice. Congratulations.
Congratulations. This one from Cindy. It says, yes, Faith Nation, I'm thankful to hear of the positive spiritual events. So encouraging. We need to hear encouragement. And so if encouragement is what you want to hear, then we have a great segment coming up later on in the show with the team from FaithWire just about some of the really encouraging stories that are out there. So teaser there for you, Cindy.
So
good. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Amber. Well, coming up, the 2018 agenda, we will look at what's in store for lawmakers in the year ahead.
Israel and the Middle East, center of the world for thousands of years, and still creating headlines that reach back to the Bible. Hosted by award-winning correspondent Chris Mitchell, Jerusalem Dateline brings a Christian perspective to events that literally change history. Whether it's the front lines or underground, Jerusalem Dateline is your window to Israel, Jerusalem, and the Middle East. Contact us at the address on your screen.
Welcome back. Ben Kennedy is live at the White House, and he joins us now. Ben, at the end of the year, the president, of course, he got the tax reform that he wanted. He's looking for more wins in 2018.
Yeah, good afternoon, Jenna. President Trump got a big win with tax reform, and he's really looking to build on that momentum into the new year. And of course, we're talking about infrastructure. The president and GOP leaders are working on a plan. It's likely the first big item Congress will take on when they're back in session. So why infrastructure reform? Well, it's because President Trump doesn't believe it'll be hard to get passed.
Well, we're going to get infrastructure. Infrastructure is the easiest of all.
And the president also hopes for bipartisan support on infrastructure. We'll have to wait and see how many Democrats decide to cross party lines for our roads, rivers, and roadways to really get them back on track. David, Jenna?
Yeah, you know, Ben, and it is going to be interesting, Ben and Jenna. Ben and Jenna. Is that an ice cream?
Jenna.
Oh, anyhow. I was just going to say that it's going to be interesting to see how much money they end up spending on all of this, because I know the president's talking about $200 billion, but this price tag.
The Corps of Civil Engineers saying that that is just a drop in the bucket for what really needs to get done. So we'll see.
For sure. Hey, Ben, by the way, what else is the president working on with GOP leaders?
Well, David, the clock is ticking on keeping the government funded. Lawmakers have until January 19th. That is the day to pass a bill to avoid a government shutdown. So do the math. That's 2 weeks from now, so really not a lot of time, especially if you consider members of Congress aren't back in session yet. Once they return to Capitol Hill, they will have 8 days, just 8 days, to pass a bill. David and Jenna, since 1981, the government has actually shut down 12 times. And you better believe it, Congress does not want to make this 13.
Yeah, I'm sure. You know, I'm actually surprised. 12 times. I mean, if I had a guess, since when did you say? When was that? Since 1981?
1981, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually, if you do the math, what is that, 30 plus, 35 years, 12? That's one every 3 years, roughly? That's, that's more than I thought it would be, for sure. Anyhow.
All right, well, Ben, it's a long list. Of course, we can't get to everything, but what's one more big one the president has?
Well, Jenna, I'll break it down to you. It comes down to 2 words. That's midterm elections. Granted, they aren't until November 6th, so a bit of ways away, but lawmakers are already looking ahead, specifically Republicans, as they do not want to lose the majority in both the House and the Senate. Democrats need to win 24 seats to take the House, and they need 2 seats to take the Senate. So, bottom line, David and Jenna, all eyes will be on early November.
Ben Kennedy from the very warm White House. What, about 75 out there today, Ben, or what do you got?
Warm is an understatement, but I can tell you, Jerome, my photojournalist, and I, the squirrels are out, so they came out of hibernation in front of the White House, so apparently it's not too cold for them.
The breaking news from the White House is not too cold for the squirrels.
Yes. All right, thank you, Ben. It's a great sport.
He is a great sport, and he's been out there since the break of dawn, I think.
It is so chilly here in D.C., and I know up and down the East Coast, Paula White was saying when we were talking to her earlier that they were expecting maybe a few snow flurries down in Florida.
Orlando, right?
Yes.
I think that's where she's in. Or at.
So, wherever you are, stay warm.
Hey, real quick, I just wanted, before we head to the break, I just wanted to say something about the midterm elections. I mean, very important. Let's understand that there are 32 Senate seats up for grabs in the midterms. The problem for the Democrats is they have to defend 23 of these 32.
Yeah.
So the math is not good in that sense, because it's always tough to defend Senate seats, which means, in essence, the 9 that are held by Republicans, Democrats are going to have to take 2 of those. They need to take 2 out of 9. If they can do that and hold all 23 of their own seats, then they're going to win back the majority, and that is not good news for President Trump.
Yeah. All right.
So.
Well, coming up, the folks from FaithWire will join us to talk about some of their biggest stories of 2017.
I want it to be God. I want it to be Christ.
Hey there! Make sure you check out my new uplifting Christian entertainment show, Studio 5.
Well, so often watching the news or reading it, it can just be so disheartening. But our friends at FaithWire, we were talking about them earlier, are working to shift the perspective and bring you stories that inspire.
That's right. Earlier today, I got a chance to talk with managing editor Dan Andros and senior editor Billy Hallowell about some of FaithWire's biggest stories of 2017. Take a look. Dan and Billy, thank you guys so much for being with us here today. So for those of our viewers who do not know about the journalistic gym that is FaithWire, tell them a little bit about what... I know, right? Okay, I've worked on that one. Tell them about what they can expect when they log on.
Yeah, so FaithWire, what we focus on, we try to find sort of the positive stories amidst the craziness. We know the world, there's so much chaos in the world, and we, of course, do report on some of those things going on, but we're always looking for that nugget of hope, that little bit of light, because, the shadow only proves the sunshine, as the songwriter says. So, no matter what darkness is there, there's always light somewhere, and so we're always looking for that, and we try to bring people that and give everyone a little hope.
I was going to use the word safe space, but then I thought maybe I shouldn't. But no, in a sense, it's a great place that you can go, I think, to get uplifting news. Like you're saying, there's so much out there going on, and we cover some of the things that are happening in news that might not be always positive. But I think we dive deeper into some of the uplifting stories out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the uplifting story, what was the #1 story for you guys over there at FaithWire?
Well, the #1 story of 2017 for us actually has a negative sounding headline. So it says the one thing guaranteed to end all marriages. Now, okay, so that sounds a little negative, but actually, I was actually encouraged that this story did very well for us because it shows to me that people actually care about their marriages and they want to know what is the one thing that I should not do. And it was written by a contributor, Meg Wallace, and she's a blogger. And it's just really great, but you can read the whole thing. It's a long piece, but the answer is, well, spoiler alert, it's hardness of heart is the root of all failed marriages. And she goes through all the different areas where if your heart is hard, it's going to lead to problems. So it's a great piece, and that one was off the charts for us this year.
Wow. I think that message can go to relationships in general, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And #2, what was the #2 most read story for FaithWire?
So it's interesting. It was a story about Joel Osteen, and it was a fact check, basically providing the other side of the scandal, the controversy over Hurricane Harvey. I'm sure some viewers remember there was a lot of debate, people claiming that Joel Osteen and Lakewood Church down in Houston weren't allowing people to come into the church. And so what we did was we actually called the church and we talked to them, and we were able to sort of provide the narrative from their side, not defending them, but saying, well, what's actually going on? Are you really closing your doors to people, or is there a reason why? And it turned out that there were actually floodwaters that were only about 10 feet from the top of their floodgates, and they were fearful that people would be injured and hurt. And so I think the story resonated with people because, whether you like Joel Osteen or you don't like Joel Osteen, getting to the truth of what's going on is an important thing. And so I think for us, we were able to kind of provide something that people weren't seeing in the rest of the media.
Yeah, he was getting a lot of heat on Twitter. Immediately, people were jumping down his throat saying like, oh, here's this, wealthy guy and he won't close his doors to people in need. And that, regardless of what you think of him, as Billy said, I mean, we just know that, Christians are not like that in general. And so it was hard for us to believe, no, wait a minute, they're not just shunning people away and saying, get out of here. What is the real story here? And Billy did a great job tracking it down.
I think you touched on it a little bit, but I guess my next question would be, why is it important to have an outlet like FaithWire?
Well, I think because in a story like that, for instance, we sometimes only see one narrative, and I think that's one thing. So being able to sort of show, okay, look, there's other stuff going on here. What is that other stuff? Let's get to the heart of it. And I would also say fact-checking things, looking at things, but also just good faith news, I think, for a younger generation.
Well, and I think you can't have too many faith outlets that have an eternal perspective on the things happening in the world. You guys do a great job of that, obviously. And we're doing it in our way, which is, just a different style than you guys are doing. But what we're doing essentially at the core is the same thing. We're looking for the faith angle in things, and we're looking for Jesus. We're looking for God in everyday life. And we're trying to pull that out because we know the mainstream media is not going to do that by and large. I mean, there have been countless times where you see that somebody that they've interviewed in a story that, they prayed at the end of it. You're like, wait a minute, that got thrown in at the bottom. Like, for us, that's going to be the lead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Definitely a necessary voice in a media-filled world. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, blessings to you in 2018.
Same to you.
Those guys they're impressive.
Oh, very impressive, very impressive. If you're looking for your next Follow Friday, so like the person that you're going to follow on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, I would suggest at Billy Hollowell, at Dan Andrews. Billy in particular is very vocal about Christians and how we fill the space on social media. What are you saying? What messages are we saying as Christians, and how are we reaching the world? Is it positive? Is it uplifting? And so I do suggest you check him out and just kind of see some of those nuggets of wisdom.
Being salt and light.
Being salt and light, being good, being good people.
You sure you don't want Follow Friday to be at the Brody File and at Jenna Browder? Just saying.
I mean,
yeah. I mean, all of the above.
A, B, and C.
All of the above, yeah.
Hey, before we go, can I just say, y'all realize what's coming next week? Donald Trump's Media Awards.
I heard something about this.
Yeah, the Fake News Awards. This is going to be interesting, to say the least. What do you think, Jenna?
Well, bringing up his tweet, he was tweeting about it last night, I think. What was he? What did he say?
He had some spare time.
Yeah, he did.
And he was tweeting about it. Yeah.
The Fake News Awards will be announced on Monday.
Yeah, they're coming on Monday. I think he's just kind of had it with a lot of the mainstream media outlets, the CNNs of the world, or as he would call it, the Clinton news networks of the world, MSNBCs. So there'll be that. Maybe there'll be some positive awards. I don't know, no
some
guarantees.
Positive awards, I don't know.
What I'm wondering, is this going to be a Twitter announcement or is it going to be an event?
What is your sense over there at the White House? I mean, who knows, right? But I mean, you cover the White House, so I mean, do you think this is like an East Room situation?
I'm not quite sure that is something that's going to come out in today's briefing. It seems like the things that come out on Twitter and then what we get in the briefing are just a little bit different. So the president tweets this and then Sarah says, well,
right.
This is what he means. So it'll be a little interesting to see the perspective from the press room on that one.
Here is that tweet. This was 17 hours ago on Twitter. The president writes, "I will be announcing the most dishonest and corrupt media awards of the year on Monday at 5 o'clock. Subjects will cover dishonesty and bad reporting in various categories from the fake news media. Stay tuned."
My goodness, it's like The Apprentice, right? Tonight on NBC, the fake news.
Coming up.
Yeah, well, Brian Ross at ABC has got to be, right now, the odds-on favorite to win, the award of the year, at least in Donald Trump's eyes. So we'll see. But CNN could give him a run for his money.
Yeah, Jim Acosta and some others over there.
Jim Acosta, is this a black tie event? What's going on?
I don't know.
Anyhow, well, that's going to do it, I guess, for this week. The first show. Faith Nation 2018.
The show will still be on Facebook. If you want to share it and you want to keep commenting, you're more than welcome to do that. We encourage you to do that.
Yeah, and of course, happy New Year from all of us at Faith Nation. We'll see you next week.